Everybody is bracing for a housing market crash, but in Halifax, the numbers tell a different story. So far in 2025, not only are home prices rising, but sales are rising too, meaning we're selling more homes for more money this year than we did over the same time period in 2024. But what does this all mean for you? Whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to figure out what your next move is going to be, I'm going to help you out because in this video, I'm going to talk about the stats from the first quarter of 2025, but I'm also going to dive into some common trends I've been seeing on the ground level when I'm out working with my buyer and seller clients so that you can make the smartest decision possible in a fast moving market. But just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name's Andrew Stevens. I've been a realtor in Halifax for over 10 years. And if you want to be educated on the Halifax real estate market, then hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you're thinking about making a move in the Halifax and Dartmouth area, you can reach out to me anytime for a consult in the Calendly link below at a time that's convenient for you. So let's kick things off with the general stats from the first quarter, and then I'm going to dive into some of those trends that I've been seeing. So just burning through this one quickly, so far in 2025, we saw 989 sales in the Halifax-Dartmouth region, and this is up 3% from the same time period in 2024. Now, in terms of the average sale price of these sales, we are sitting just under $595,000, which is up 6.4% from the same time period of last year. And really, if I zoom out and look at just the month of March, I would say that we're picking up momentum, but this would be typical for this time of year as March, April, and May tend to be some of the busiest months in our market historically in a typical year in Halifax. But if I look at March specifically, 2025 to 2024, the average sale price is up 8% in March this year compared to 2024. So we're definitely gaining momentum heading into the spring market. Now, in terms of the average time that it takes to sell a home in Halifax, we're looking at 41 days right now in the HRM, which is just 1 day longer than the same time period last year. So things are still moving pretty quickly overall. And finally, we're sitting with a listing inventory of 2.1 months. So what I mean by that is if we as agents stopped listing properties tomorrow, how long would it take for all the listings that are currently on the market to be sold based on the rate that they are currently selling? So right now that's 2.1 months, and 2.1 months is considered a seller's market overall, which if you've been following along my channel, we've been sitting right around 2 months of listing inventory for quite some time. So that's not really a shocker. We've kind of been hovering between 1.8 and 2.3 for almost a couple years now, realistically speaking. And it really does depend on the price point that you're looking in, which I'm going to dive into shortly when I get into the trends. But here's where it gets interesting, because yes, the stats do tell the tale and obviously the numbers don't lie, but that's only one part of the story. And this is where a lot of things focus on. But what I want to talk about in this video is some trends that I'm seeing commonly on the ground when I'm working with my buyer and seller clients. So trend number one, not all listings are created equal. Right now, there are about 970 active listings on the market, and on paper, that sounds like a decent amount. But over half of those listings have been sitting on the market for more than 30 days. And actually, if I look even further, 35% of those listings have been on the market for 60 days or longer. So what's going on? Even though listings were up in March 25% compared to the same time frame in 2024, we have a lot of stale inventory is what I would refer to it as. So maybe there's a lot of homes that are overpriced and have been sitting on the market for quite some time. Maybe there's a lot of homes in the higher price points which are not nearly as active as the lower price ranges. So for example, maybe $1 million home out in the suburbs compared to a $400,000 semi in Lower Sackville. And realistically, a lot of these listings have been on the market last year in 2024. Maybe they didn't sell, they took it off for a little bit over the winter, and now those homes are back on the market early in 2025, and they're still sitting. And again, maybe they're overpriced, maybe they're not marketed correctly, maybe they've been sitting on the market a little longer than usual, and now buyers are starting to avoid them. But I can tell you that if you're a buyer looking for a home, just because a home has been sitting on the market for 30 or 60 or even 90 or 120 days does not necessarily mean that there's something wrong with it. And maybe there is something wrong with it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And I wouldn't rule them out altogether, as these could be major opportunities for you to get into a home without being in a bidding war with several other buyers. Maybe it gives you a little bit more negotiating room on the price. Maybe you can negotiate a longer closing to save a little bit more money and get that emergency fund stocked up a little bit more before closing. So again, maybe a home's been sitting on the market because there is a problem, but there might not be. So don't rule these out. And maybe if you're a buyer struggling to get into a home at a difficult price range or in a kind of a tough market to get into a house, depending on the neighborhood you're looking in, if there is something that's sitting around, don't rule it out. Go take a look and see if it might be the right fit for you. All right, moving on to trend number 2. Price point really matters. So depending on your budget, you might have a totally different experience buying or selling. So here's how the inventory level breaks down right now in the HRM. If you're looking under $500,000, there's only a month's worth of inventory. This is the most competitive segment of the market right now. Anything from $500,000 to $750,000 is slightly better, but we're still in a major seller's market at only 1.8 months of listing inventory. If we look ahead to $750,000 to $1 million, now we're looking at a more balanced kind of market, or approaching a balanced market range, which is 4 months of listing inventory. And if I go up to over $1 million, which would be considered the luxury market here in HRM, there's about 7.7 months of listing inventory. So this is a very different market. And in this segment, we're looking at a buyer's market, which probably will not come as a shock to most viewers. So at the end of the day, your experience in the Halifax real estate market is going to greatly depend on what kind of a market you are working in. So for example, if you're looking to buy your first home and your budget is $500,000, this is going to be difficult for you. You're going to see a lot of multiple offer situations, and you're likely going to miss out on some homes before you get an accepted offer. Now, if you're looking to sell a home that's kind of anywhere in the $750,000 or below range, this is a great time to do it, because in this segment of the market, there is much more demand than the supply that we currently have. If you're looking to sell your first home and move up into a bigger family home with kind of higher end finishes, maybe a nicer neighborhood in the higher price ranges, this is a great part of the market to do that, because the home you're selling is in a seller's market, and maybe the home you're buying is in more of a buyer's market. So you're selling high and buying low in this example. If you're looking to sell a luxury home, it might take a little bit longer. And that's not to say that it might not be the right time to do it. It really depends on the price point and what your neighborhood is and everything else. So it really depends, but it's not a one size fits all market. The lower price ranges are way different than the higher price ranges, and every neighborhood is a little different than the other. Moving on to trend number 3. This one is buyers are still paying top dollar. Across the board, homes sold for just over 100% of the asking price in the first quarter. And it's even more aggressive in the lower price ranges. So in March alone, homes under $500,000 were selling for an average of 101.4% of the asking price. And this number has been climbing month over month by about 1% to 1.5% the last 2 months since the start of 2025. Now, to give you a couple real life examples, last week I listed a semi-detached property, one of those split level ones with the bedrooms in the basement in Eastern Passage, and it was listed at $399,900. On this particular property, I had over 25 viewings in 4 days, and I had 10 offers at the end of the day, and it was extremely competitive price-wise versus some of the other sales I've been seeing recently in the area. And the week before that, I was on the buyer end of a deal with a buyer looking at a semi-detached property in Dartmouth, again at $399,900. And like I said, this price point is very competitive, and this listing had at least 8 offers was the last update that I got as well. And I can tell you, based on what we offered and we were unsuccessful, I can tell you that the price for this one was very competitive as well. Now, again, this is going to vary market to market, but pretty much anything in the up to $750,000 range right now is extremely competitive, and homes are selling for, generally speaking, very close to the asking price in a lot of cases, or over the asking price in a lot of cases. About a third of the homes right now are selling over the asking price, meaning they likely got some bidding wars to make that happen. But at the end of the day, yes, there are still lots of opportunities in the market, especially with some of the stale inventory, which I referenced earlier. So it's just a matter of finding the right fit for you. But if you're looking to buy your first home, it's pretty much a bloodbath out there between these buyers competing on these listings that are listed on the lower price points in our market. And it's really tough to see because all these first-time home buyers are just trying to get into the market and build some equity. And it's tough for me to see that many people losing on a listing, even though I am representing the seller in that case and their best interests. All right, moving on to market trend number 4, and this is the last one that I'm going to talk about in this video, and this one is that we're still seeing quite a bit of out-of-town buyers. Yes, this trend has slowed down since 2020, 2021, and 2022, but we are still seeing a lot of people migrating here from Ontario and out west. Now, a lot of them are people who grew up in Nova Scotia. Maybe they moved out west or to Ontario 10, 15 years ago for work, and now maybe, they're trying to migrate back home. But a lot of them are people who are from Ontario, for example, and are just looking for a kind of slower pace of life and looking for that East Coast lifestyle that we here in Halifax all know and love. Now, for context, I'm having a pretty good start to the year, busier than my last couple years, and about 25% of my business so far this year is directly related to out-of-town buyers in one way or another. And on top of that, I'm currently working with or in talks with several people who are thinking about making a move from Ontario or out west. And actually, a lot of them I met from this channel. So thank you very much for your support if you're watching this. And if you're somebody who's thinking about making a move from another province and you'd like to get in touch with me to discuss Halifax and surrounding area, don't forget you can jump into the Calendly link below in the description anytime to book a buyer consult or a call with me at your convenience. So those are kind of some common trends I've been seeing in the market that I wanted to talk about in this video. But another thing that I get, asked a lot and a lot of people do is, where is this all going? So that's all well and good. This is what's happening, but where is this going? What happens next? And what I would say to that is, well, it's really difficult to tell in all honesty. There is, as you know, a lot of uncertainty happening right now in Canada, in the world in general, the threat of tariffs, a lot of economic instability, a lot of political instability, and it's really hard to say what comes next. But I can tell you that based on everything I'm seeing, at the end of the day, it's really simple. We still have a lot more demand than the supply that we currently have in the housing market, whether that be rentals, whether that be resale market, new construction, whatever that might be. And because of this, it's really driving the market, and I don't foresee it really changing drastically anytime soon, but obviously, that can change with one simple announcement from the government, whether it be at the political level, economic level, or whatever that might look like. But generally speaking, I think things will keep ticking along. And I think the market that we're seeing right now is likely to continue through the spring and into the summer months. And right now, for context, if you look at the CMHC forecast, right now, they're forecasting a low of $563,000 and a high of $605,000 for the Halifax real estate prices this year. Personally, I predicted this year that our market will end the year in the $600,000 average sale price or higher. And based on what I'm seeing right now, I would say that we're pretty on track for this number. And the reality is, if you're waiting and kind of waiting to time the market or wait for things to slow down, that might not be the best move because CMHC is forecasting $650,000 as a price point high in 2027. And to be honest, I would agree with this number. I think over the next couple of years, we're likely to see, 4 to 6% year over year price increases, which would have us around that mid 600 range in 2027. And by the way, these 5% price growth year over year will likely outpace your wages as well. So if you're getting into the market, if it's the right time for you, then make the move. Don't be scared of it. If you're going to hold it for 5 to 10 years, you're not going to regret the decision that you make today. So I know there's a lot of noise in the media talking about the crash and all these things coming, but if you're waiting for the crash, this is unlikely to happen, as we've seen our price points go down year over year only once since 1980. So the numbers don't lie. I know there's a lot of noise in the media, but the numbers at the end of the day do not lie. Look, don't get me wrong. Is a market crash possible? Sure. Are the price points going down possible? Sure. Is it likely? I would say no. And is it more likely that the prices continue to go up than for them to come back down? In my opinion, the answer to this is yes. So the question you need to ask yourself if you're considering making a move anywhere in Nova Scotia is Is this the right time for you? The headlines don't really matter. The noise doesn't really matter. It really matters with your situation. Are you ready to make a move emotionally, financially? Is it the right time in your life? Because you can't time the market, but you can time your life. So if you're trying to figure out what the best move is for you going forward, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below. And I'd love to try to help you get to a decision that makes sense for you and your family. And if you got any value from this video, all I ask is that you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content. And that'll help push this out to more people like you who may be interested in seeing videos about the Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Canadian real estate market. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support and have a great day.